So, church, we've been in this series called It's All Good. What are we talking about? Listen, life is going to throw the kitchen sink at you sometimes. There are going to be some challenges. And what we are learning is that even when life's challenges come at us, we can genuinely say it's all good. Why? It's because of who is with us. It's who lives inside of us. And I just want to declare right now that if you've got Jesus, you have got it all. Come on, somebody. And so we can genuinely say it's all good. So today we are going to continue with the new message, and the message is titled The Discipline of Joy. The discipline of joy. Why are we calling it a discipline? It's a discipline because it doesn't come naturally to us. For a lot of us, when pressures come against us, joy just evaporates. We go from, being really happy and joyful, and all of a sudden we're irritated, we're moody, you know what I mean? We're like barking at people, kind of getting at them, get back, and it's easy for us to slip out of joy. But today, as we get into God's word, this is the takeaway that I want you to have, is that we can have joy no matter what. Let me say it again, that we can have joy no matter what. Come on, we can say it's all good, peeps. And so I want to talk about this subject today, the discipline of joy. See, here in America, there's something interesting, is we get joy and happiness mixed up. And we live in a country that is obsessed with happiness, with very little understanding of what joy truly means. See, even in our own Constitution, it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of, come on, help me out, happiness, right? And so when we mix those things up, when we're misguided in the areas of happiness and joy, it can lead to some really crazy things, some challenges in our own lives. And so in our misguided pursuit of happiness, what we've learned is that we can fall into two camps. One is there's the camp that is pursuing accomplishments for happiness. People will say, when I accomplish that thing, then I will be happy. Others will say, when I get that job, then I'll be happy. Others will say, when I meet the right person, then I will be happy. Or when I have the right paycheck, or I have the right title, then I will experience true happiness. And in their mind, that happiness will then lead to joy. And then there's another camp that is not only into accomplishments, but into things that they accumulate. So you'll have other people say, man, I will be happy when I have that 2021 new truck. Others will say, I will be happy when I have the right clothing or I have the right fragrance, that is the thing that is going to bring me happiness in my life. When I was a young kid, I think I was in 5th grade. I remember this. And I was convinced that if I had a pair of Vans shoes, that I was going to be happy. So my mom and dad gave my grandmother some money to take us school clothes shopping. You know what I did is I spent almost all of my school clothes money on shoes. I was convinced that if I had those shoes, man, I was going to have a great year and I was going to be happy and people were going to be all excited when they saw my shoes. You know what happened? Is that I had to wear the clothes from the year before with my new shoes, man. And I was not happy. And truthfully, nobody ever even complimented me on those shoes that I thought was going to bring happiness into my life. Come on, somebody. I hope some of you can relate. You know what I'm talking about. But see, advertisers, they get this. They've got it down. They know that we as Americans, that we pursue happiness. And so they'll put these advertisements, they'll put things on, these commercials on TV. And what do you always see? They're just smiling. They're just having a great time. They're on a zip line. They're running on the beach. They see the car in the driveway with the huge red bow and everybody's like, they're so excited. And something inside of us is going, I want to smile like that. I want to be happy like them too. Come on, I want a piece of that. And all they're saying is, yes, you can be happy too if you have this thing, if you experience this experience, that you can be happy as well. But here's the thing, and this is my question, and this is a serious question to you. What if the things that you're trying to accomplish or the things that you're trying to accumulate, what if you never actually reach those things? Because see, I've known people personally that have pursued those things with all their might. And it seems that as they're chasing those things are actually running from them. And as they pursue happiness, there's this emptiness inside because it always just seems like it's just a little bit beyond their grasp. They can never quite get there. And what happens if we don't achieve or accomplish those things? I believe that it leads to emptiness. And I want to tell you today that God has something so much more than happiness for you. That God wants you to move past happiness into joy. See, happiness is based on the external, while joy is based on something that is internal. Joy means that no matter what is happening around me, that I have something in me that supersedes what is happening externally. Let me say that again. That joy means that no matter what is happening around me, the circumstances, the challenges, the good things, the bad things, it doesn't matter what is swirling and happening around me, because I have something in me that supersedes what is happening externally. See, 2 Corinthians 4:16-17, if you would, go there with me. It says, therefore, we do not lose heart. Though outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. What God is doing is he's calling you and I to an eternal perspective, knowing that the challenges that we face today, that it is storing up eternal rewards. There's something greater that is happening than people can see with the natural eye. But more importantly, what he's saying is as things are wasting away, as things are falling apart around us, you can rest assured that if you've got God in your life, even though the things outside are going wrong, things are, falling apart, that something inside you are being renewed daily, day by day. Guys, that is good news. And see, joy is based on Christ, while happiness is based on circumstances. And what are circumstances? The word circumstance has the word circle in it. Means it's the circle that you stand in. It's the things that are happening around this life that I'm standing in. Everything that is around that's happening, that I stand in this circle, and it's what's happening around me. It's what's happening to me. You know what? I think that a lot of people have lost their joy because the circumstance also represents the atmosphere that you're in. And people have lost their joy because the atmosphere around them has begun to squeeze the joy out of them. I want to give you this little visual. I have this balloon here, and you look at it, and most of you would say there's no air inside this balloon because all the air escaped. But the reality is this, is that air doesn't escape. Air is actually being forced out of the balloon. There's a thing called atmospheric pressure. Okay, it's 14.7 pounds per square inch is pressing against this balloon and is actually driving the air out of it. That your body, since the time you were a child, every day of your life, every second, every moment, you have had 14.7 pounds per square inch pressing against you as gravity is pulling everything to the earth. And I want you to see that the air, if whatever fills this, I'm going to say that it's the joy, okay? It's the joy. And the outside pressure, the outside atmosphere, it is literally crushing the air out of this. But what I want you to know is that when you have Christ in your life, this is how joy fills you. You see how the joy has the ability to overcome the atmosphere which it is in? Are you guys seeing this? See, as long as I hold this and I don't let it escape, this joy will remain because it is not affected by the pressures of the outside world. See, that is the difference between happiness and joy. See, when you remain in joy, you can remain full even in empty circumstances because your joy cannot be taken from you. It is a fruit of the Spirit. It is evidence that God is working inside of your life. But this is what happens when you begin to pursue happiness instead of maintaining and staying in joy in Christ. The world will begin to put pressure, and look at what's happening is your joy will be squeezed out of you. I want to challenge you today that if we are going to be able to live a life where we say, hey, I've got joy no matter what, you're going to have to remember that God is doing something inside of you and that the outside world has no effect on you unless you determine that you are going to pursue happiness instead of the joy of the Lord. I hope that you guys are getting something out of this. See, because what happens is that you have to understand that joy is a choice, but happiness is based on chance. And I want to encourage you today to, in my own life, I don't want to let things that I can't control me. See, and when it comes to happiness, you are not in control. That's an environment. That's the atmosphere around you. You are not in control of those things. And I'm not going to allow myself to be controlled by things that I don't have any control over. I have control over this. I'm going to choose to believe in God. I'm going to fill up on joy. And the world can come at me. The world can try to put its pressure on me. But I will be unmovable because I'm going to choose to put my faith in God and remind myself consistently that although things around me may not be going right, but something inside of me can be going great. Because I'm not building for this world. I am building for eternity. And I hope that this is meaning something to all of you that are seeing this right now. So I have 3 things that I want to share with you today. When it comes to the discipline of joy. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with this really cool story in Philippians. So if you would, go ahead and go to Philippians chapter 1. The Apostle Paul is the one who wrote Philippians, and he's writing to a church in a city called Philippi, okay? Hence, the Philippians. And what you have to understand is that Paul has a really special place in his heart for this particular church. It was one of the very first places that he actually preached the gospel on European soil. And so this church is about 10 to 12 years old, and they're somewhat of a mature church, but yet Paul, being really a father in the faith, is like, hey, I want to continue to encourage them to grow. And what is he wanting them to grow in? He's wanting them to grow in their joy, okay? But let me give you the backstory, because there's some irony to this story. And it's that Paul, as he's getting ready to talk about joy no matter what, as he's getting ready to impart a new way of thinking and talking about going on this journey to actually living in joy with Christ, his story is that he is writing this letter from a Roman prison. Okay, so if you think about it, that's kind of wild, right? It's like, okay, I want to I'm in prison, I'm locked up, I'm facing tough circumstances. What am I going to do? I'm going to write a letter to encourage people. Wow, it just sounds crazy. But see, Paul also experienced some other things. He has a death sentence looming over his head. He's not sure if Rome's going to let him go, or if, they're going to have, they're going to try him and he's going to have some consequences. Another thing is that recently he's had a death of a dream. And see, a lot of us, we've had dreams in our lives, and when those things don't come to pass, it can be the very thing that just sucks the joy out of your life. And here Paul, he had a dream to preach the gospel in Rome. Because at that time, Rome was a cultural and economic hub, in that world. And he genuinely believed that if he could reach Rome, if he could win Rome for Christ, then he could win the world for Christ. And so he was excited about going there to preach the gospel. Well, here he finds himself in Rome, but he's not there under the circumstances that he thought he would be. He's not preaching to the masses. He's locked up in a Roman prison, chained to a Roman guard. And he's under high security by the palace guards there. And not only that, there's people that are talking trash about him. They're coming against his ministry. And maybe in your life today, maybe your joy has been squeezed and squashed out of you because of the people that are around you. That it just seems that no matter what you do, you can't make the right decision, that people don't approve. And that it's that weight and that pressure has come and it's just deflated the joy in your life. See, Paul is not going to write to the Philippians from a place of what we would consider happiness and really happy situation. He's facing some tough stuff. The odds are stacked against him, but yet he's going to choose to live a life of joy. And I just want we're going to extract some really important truths today from this passage in Philippians chapter 1. So go with me to Philippians 1:6. I'm going to share with you 3 things today that are really important that you and I get. And so number 1 is this, is that be confident in God's plan. Number 1 is that if you are going to live with the discipline of joy, that you have to be confident in God's plan. Okay, listen to what Philippians 1:6 says. He's saying, being confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. See, I'm able to have joy no matter what because I'm confident that he who began a good work in me, that he who began a good work in you is at work no matter what is going on around me. See, the promise is this to you, the promise is this to me, is that God will complete it. And see, we have to understand this, that there has to be a confidence no matter what's going on. So somebody could have said to Paul, Paul, you're locked up. And Paul would have said, I'm confident. God has a plan. But Paul, you have a death sentence hanging over your head. And he would say, but I'm confident that God has a plan. But Paul, you're not preaching to the masses. I'm confident that God has a plan. But Paul, you have people talking trash about your ministry. But I'm confident that God has a plan. And see, there has to be this confidence on the inside of you that God has started a good work in your life and that God will be faithful to complete the thing that he started in your life. Some of you right now, you just need to say, I'm confident. Come on, somebody, type that in the comments section. Just say, I'm confident that God has started a good work in me and that he will be faithful to complete it. Listen to me. If you're still breathing, then God is still working, my friend. Let me say it again. If you are still breathing, then God is still working in your life right now. And we have to be confident that God has a good plan and that he will be faithful to complete it. Where's your confidence at right now in life? Is your confidence in you? Is your confidence in something else? Is your confidence in a job? Is your confidence in a relationship? Is your confidence inside of some kind of promotion or position? Because listen, those things will not hold up. But the one thing that will hold up and the one thing that will allow you to have joy, as Paul is imparting right here, as Paul is teaching them how to live with joy no matter what, is that you have to be confident in every situation that God is in the midst of it and that his plan will be fulfilled and he will complete his plan. Confidence. Come on, somebody. Say confidence. Tell your neighbor confidence. So number 2 is this. If you are going to live with the discipline of joy, if you're going to walk in it, is that stop asking why. Number 2 is that you have to stop asking why. So number 1 is that you got to be confident in God's plan. Number 2 is you've got to stop asking why. See, listen in Philippians 1:12. It says, but I want you to know, brethren, that the things which happened to me have actually turned out for the furtherance of the gospel. See, that there's a plan that God has. There's something that he's doing. He's saying that they've actually turned out, like this thing has actually turned into good for the furtherance of the gospel. But you know what? Paul moved past why. And some of us, our biggest issue, the reason that we have a hard time staying in joy is because we have not been able to move past why. We're actually stuck on why. We have these questions. God, why is this happening to us? God, I don't understand what's happening. How come? Why us? Why me? You know, some people ask the question, why do bad things happen to good people? But there's also another question, why do good things happen to bad people? It's the same question. Actually, that might even be a better question. But see, some of us, we get stuck on why. We get stuck on the bitterness and what happened in the past, and we're trying to re-engineer our past to try to figure out where it went wrong. And somehow we're going to go back there and be able to fix that. But I just want you to know that some of you need to hear my voice today. You need to move, you need to forgive, and you need to move on. Forgive yourself. and move on. Some of you need to forgive others and you need to move on. It's time, my friend. It's time to stop asking, why did this happen? Why did they do that? Why did they reject me? Why did they leave me? Why did they abandon me? Why did they betray me? It's time to move forward. It's time to stop asking why. There is nothing for you back there. It's all ahead, and God has great things for you. Please, I plead with you today. Don't get stuck on why, my friend. Stop asking why. It's time to move forward. Listen to what John 16:33 says. It says, "These things I have spoken to you, that in me you may have peace." So Jesus is saying, hey, if you want peace on the situation, I'm going to give you peace. And it doesn't happen the way we think. Listen to this. It says, "In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer." He's saying, have joy. I have overcome the world. See, God never promised that there would never be pressures, but he promised that through him, you would be able to overcome. What he's promising is that you will be able to live over your circumstances and not under your circumstances. With the balloon, once again, that with Christ, you will overcome the pressures of life, the outside influences, the atmosphere, that you have the ability to expand past it through Christ and not be touched by it. And so I just want you to remember that. You know, in the Bible, also go with me to John chapter 9, verse 2. There's this really interesting story. Some of you may know this story, but it kind of makes the point. In John 9, verse 2, these guys come to Jesus and they say, "Rabbi," has his disciples asked him, "Why," here we go, here's the why question, "why was this man born blind? Was it because of his own sin or his parents' sin?" You see how people, we have this insatiable desire and need to know why. Even the disciples come to Jesus and they're like, why? Right? Little children, they're always like, why, mommy, why, daddy? You know, that's one of their biggest questions. But there comes a point in life where why doesn't work anymore. And for kids, they mature and they stop asking why, and they do this. They ask what. And I want to talk to you about moving on. Number 3 is moving on to what. Now let's pick up with John chapter 9, verse 3 again. So the story is, remember at the beginning, the disciples, these people were asking, why did this happen to him? Was it his sin or his parents' sin? But listen to what Jesus responds with. "It was not because of his sin or his parents' sin," Jesus answered. "This happened so the power of God would be seen in him." See, they asked the question why, and Jesus immediately directed it to the what. Number 3 is that we've got to move on to the what. We can't get stuck on the why. Listen to what Philippians 1:13 says in this story. "So that it was evident to the whole palace guard and to all the rest that my chains are in Christ." So what I want you to see here is that Paul did not ask, why did I get thrown in prison? Why am I not out there preaching to the masses? Why is there a death, threat over my head? Why are there other church people coming against me? He didn't ask that question. He moved to the what, and he realized when he says it's become evident. What he's saying is it's become clear to the whole palace guard and to all the rest that my chains are in Christ. What happened here is that in him being in that place of being chained to another guard, this dude just started preaching the gospel. Can you imagine these guys? They're chained to him and they're like, this guy's nuts, man. He's singing praises to his God. He's not crying. He's not asking to be let out of here. He's singing, he's praising, he's praying, he's ministering to all the guards. They're probably like, man, can we get a shorter shift? This guy's nuts. We got to get away from him. But what he did is he realized, wait a minute. There is something that God is doing in the midst of this situation, and he took great joy in the what, not the why. And Paul had this mentality, think about this, that I'm not chained to this guard. This guard is chained to me. Do you guys see the difference? That in life, things are happening and you're going, man, I'm just chained to this bad situation. What if you flip it and say, you know what? I'm chained to that situation because by the power of God, I'm going to change this situation. Do you see how you can change that? That when you look at your situation, like, why is this happening to me? When that happens, you feel as though you're chained to the situation. Flip it around and say, God, what are you doing in this situation? What do I need to know? What do I need to see that I'm not seeing right now? That's why he says it's become evident. It's become clear that there was a plan. There was something happening. Let's continue in Philippians 1:14. And most of the brethren in the Lord, having become confident by my chains, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. So what he's saying here is, hey, I'm preaching the gospel up here in this jail, and what it's doing is it's bringing confidence to the believers that are outside of the jail. They're going, if Paul can be rocking his faith in there, if Paul can be bold with those guards, we can be talking to everybody out here. So what it is, it bolstered their faith, and it made them a heck of a lot more effective. So you're seeing the what? Paul is under these tough circumstances. The atmosphere is closing in and putting pressure on him. But his joy remains, and he's beginning to understand what the what is. Let's continue. Philippians 1:15. It says, some indeed preach Christ even from envy and strife, and some also from goodwill. The former preach Christ from selfish ambition, not sincerely, supposing to add affliction to my chains. So what he's saying is there's people out there that these people are preaching the gospel with bad motives. And he's saying, but there's some that are preaching with good motives. So in 17 it says, but the latter out of love, knowing that I am appointed for the defense of the gospel. What then? This is verse 18. Only that in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is preached. And in this I rejoice. Yes, will rejoice. I love this. So what Paul's saying is, hey, I'm here in prison and these dudes are trying to get at me right now. But he's like, but the gospel is being preached anyway. It doesn't matter. And he's just saying, whether they do it or whether we do it, I'm going to rejoice because Christ is being preached. Can you see that he shifted from not why am I here in prison to what is God doing in this situation? And it is the very thing that is fueling his joy. You know, there's this story of this little boy. He worked really hard on this little boat, little sailboat in his house. He painted every little detail, and he balanced it out inside his bathtub. And this thing was just beautiful little mini model of a boat. He was really excited to take it out on the lake. And he takes this boat out on the lake. And as he's out there, his maiden voyage, he lets it go out onto this small lake. And all of a sudden, gust of wind comes and just the wind picks up and just destroys his boat, breaks the sail off, and the little boat sinks to the bottom of the lake. And the little boy just simply says this, hey, this is a great day to fly a kite. See, some of us, that's what we have to realize is that in the midst of what we are going through right now, that God is wanting to shift our perspective. That when we get off of the why, that when we're confident in God's love for us, when we're confident in the plan that he has for our life, and we stop asking why and we move on to the what happens is you realize that God is up to something, and that when it doesn't seem like it's something that's great, that it actually turns into something that's great. See, some of you, the situations you've been in, you need to start saying today is a great day to fill in the blank. See, for some of you, that man, you have maybe had some hardship in relationships, and today is a good day to encourage somebody. Some of you, today is going to be a good day to forgive somebody. For some of you, today is going to be a good day to reconcile with somebody. For some of you, today is going to be a good day to share your faith with somebody. For some of you, that today is going to be a great day to share your testimony with somebody. Are you guys seeing that you may not be in the most ideal situation? You might right now be financially strapped, but it doesn't mean that you can't encourage somebody. It doesn't mean that you can't share your testimony. It doesn't mean that you can't share the gospel. Some of you may be sick in your body right now. You may be laid up in a bed, and you may get up in the morning, but you can't get up. You know what I'm talking about. But it doesn't mean that your life is over, that if you have breath in your lungs, that God is up to something. God is wanting to do something unique and powerful through your life. And so today is a great day to do something. And what happens is that you're going to see in your life that what is inside of you is going to take authority and have power over what is coming against you. Today, my friends, it's time to fill up on joy. It's time to fill up on joy. And as the word said, even when everything around you is falling apart, falling to pieces, that God is doing something inside of you. He's working on the inner man. He's doing something inwardly. Will you believe him? This is my challenge to you today. Stay in faith. Stay in joy. Don't allow the world's pressures to squeeze the joy out of you. Because this is what the world is wanting to do to you. It's wanting to take the joy out of your life. But through Christ, I believe that you're stronger and you will not give into it.